all of them unbroken except for the 27 because I was a wuss on thrusters and he was good. So I'm like, screw it. Bigger brakes, just gonna have to break.
I wouldn't have done that at 33. God. Ugh.
And he goes, you would have done even better. I'm like, no. I beat my old time by almost 3 minutes with you.
Did you really?
Yeah,
That's good.
I had
That's
got
solid.
17 and 15 and get 12.
Hey, I got in my 3 days a week this week. So that was all I was shooting for, and I got it. So
Yesterday's ladies conditioning, if that would have been applied to the regular classes, it would have been ouch.
Really?
They just had double unders and one dual dumbbell.
oh, is that dumbbell complex? I'm gonna program that for the classes. I am.
Please don't.
Okay.
The double
Dual
snatch, double thruster.
dumbbell thruster, 10 reps, so 20 reps total, 50 dubs again. 10
Yeah.
minutes.
And it was
Neat. All right, cool. We'll go ahead and get started. So, first off, thank you guys for coming. I don't want to stare at my computer, but I can't get the printer to work, so I'm gonna have to reference it a little bit. All right. Everyone in here knows me, but you know what? Once this goes viral, the people who watch me won't know me. So I'm gonna give a brief introduction, okay, about me. Own CrossFit Laminin, own Welded Fitness, which is an individual design company, and then been doing fitness now for CrossFit for 12 years. I'm getting old. It just hurts me to say. Yeah, okay, so 12 years, been doing CrossFit, worked, started in Huntsville, found CrossFit through a physical therapist assistant, or well, I was a PT tech, and the physical therapist there was asking me what I was doing for working out, because a couple years after high school is when I really kind of started to take fitness seriously, and I had no idea what I was doing. I just wanted to go do something. So I just kind of resorted back to like a militaristic mindset where like, I'm just gonna throw on a vest and run stairs for half an hour, right? Or I'm gonna wake up at 5 a.m. and go run sprints at the track or at the football field or whatever it was. And then would do a lot of circuits and stuff that looked actually a lot like CrossFit, but it was obviously I didn't know what CrossFit was. So he told me, went and got my L1 like a couple weeks later after I found it. And then from there, started working at CrossFit Huntsville, worked there for 4 years, moved to Dothan, worked at CrossFit Embrace for a little over a year. Then I moved back to Huntsville, worked at Iron Tribe there, and then in Birmingham worked for Iron Tribe, and then now Laminin. Yeah, so we'll Welded Fitness first and then Laminin. So, and I'll get into a little bit more of that because it is important in some of the things we're gonna talk about. But this morning, the topic, right, is holistic health, okay? Mind, body, and spirit. So I'm sorry if they're distracting y'all, but holistic, okay? When you got, well, first off, when you guys hear of something like holistic health, what's the first thing that comes to mind, right? Like, what'd you say? Natural health? Okay, yeah, what else?
It's not just fitness, it's everything else that happens outside of the gym.
Mm-hmm, yeah, what else? Organic, okay? Entirety, okay, good, yep. Anything else? We're just talking here. It's all good. All right. Okay. Holistic. All right. And what I want to do is I want to start with kind of just a groundwork of definitions. Okay. Definitions sometimes are helpful, sometimes are not, but in this case, I think they are. So when we talk about holistic, right, in terms of holistic health, holistic here is being used to describe something that's like an adjective, right? So we're talking about is something that is characterized by, and this is. They broke it up this is out of the dictionary, okay? It's not anything that I just kind of came up with, but they broke it up into two aspects. There's a philosophical aspect to holistic, and then there's actually a health aspect to holistic because this term has been used so much along with health, right? That it's actually become to get its own definition, okay? So in philosophy, it's talking about how you take something the parts of something as intimately interconnected and explicable only by reference to the whole, all right? So what you can think from there, in other words, if you guys have heard the term like worldview, right? Worldview is a holistic approach to how someone sees life, right? The analogy that a lot of people use, like if I put on a certain type of worldview, what I'm doing is I'm putting on like a certain shaded color of lenses through which I see everything, right? It's a holistic picture that I'm looking at when I look through that worldview. It's not where I just pick and choose. No, everything comes together and has to be interconnected in a way for it to make sense, okay? For health purposes, here's how the dictionary defines it. It says, is characterized by the treatment of the whole person, taking into account mental and social factors rather than just symptoms of a disease, right? So, in other words, the way to think about that is like if you go to a doctor, okay, and you have a cold, right? So you have a runny nose, okay, and you're running a fever, right? What do they normally, what's the next step? What does the doctor do for you?
Prescribe you something.
He prescribes you medicine to fix what? Right, exactly, to fix what? Your symptoms, right? He's not taking into account there the mental and social aspects, okay, if there are any that could be contributing to your disease, whatever you want to call it. Make sense? He's looking at only through the cellular level, okay, the physical level. He's trying to attack symptoms because if he attacks symptoms, he assumes that that will in turn bring health to the whole. Okay, so in this case, like for a health challenge, right? If you're coming to this challenge and you're starting a new diet, you're starting a new exercise regimen, and your only reason for it is that you have more fat than you want on your body. Okay, and then what you're going after is a caloric deficit, and let's say all we provided you was just a macronutrient profile to put you in a caloric deficit. Okay, that's not practicing holistic health, because again, all we're doing is going for the symptoms. Right? We're not treating you as a whole individual person that has a social aspect, has a rational aspect, and has a physical aspect, right? That could be contributing to those things. Does that make sense, kind of? Yeah, we tracking? Okay, all right. I don't like using that term. You tracking with me? I don't like that. All right. Okay, so what's going on? All right, cool. Before I go any further, my personal interest in this topic, like I'm going to put all my cards out on the table and where I'm coming from in this, okay? That's what I like about TED Talks, like when you watch them, is like no one's on there actually trying to be like if someone's a Muslim, right, they're going to talk to you as a Muslim, okay? If they're a Buddhist, they're going to talk to you as a Buddhist, okay? I'm a Christian, I'm going to talk to you as a Christian, all right? Because that's influencing the way that I think about all this stuff. I have gone through this because once I started taking my health seriously, found CrossFit, I started competing, right? And I started doing CrossFit purely to compete. Like I had I know coaches like a lot of times are just like, yeah, I really enjoyed like helping people like reach their goals and all this stuff, right? And I was like, no, I didn't care about any of that. Like I wanted to compete and I coached because it paid the bills. It gave me a free gym membership and it allowed me to go and do what I wanted to do, okay? I did that for a couple years. And then a couple years into that, I got saved. So when I got saved, that drastically shifted my worldview in how I viewed fitness. And that ever since that moment now, there has been this weird interplay in my own life of trying to balance this faith and this fitness aspect. There's a reason why I own a gym and I'm in seminary. Right? Because both of those things are very important to me, and it's a way in which I feel like the Lord has just gifted me in both of those aspects. So there's been this back and forth that has got me thinking about this, and starting a year ago or so, I started writing a book on just kind of my thoughts on this whole entire process, this interplay between spiritual health, physical health, mental health, all of those things. Because oftentimes I see them, no matter who you talk to, they're just separated. Okay, like we talk about one and we don't take into account how the others affect that one. And this is really important for me when I'm working with individual athletes who have competitive goals, because it drastically changes how I coach them. Okay, so let me talk about this real quick. If my computer will fix. All right, so I'm going to take you through. The title of that book that I talked about was called Some Value, okay? And what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna run through real quick two verses. Okay, this is not me preaching. You reject these premises, that's fine. Just have your own premises, okay? But just hear where I'm coming from, and this is where I'm laying the foundation for what we're going to move into. So 1 Timothy 4, 7 through 8, I actually talked about this with Sean Nelly on a podcast not too long ago. Have nothing to do with irreverent, silly myths. This is the Apostle Paul. He's talking to Timothy, just a younger guy, younger pastor. He's trying to encourage him. Have nothing to do with irreverent, silly myths. Rather, train yourself for godliness. For while bodily training is of some value, godliness is of value in every way, as it holds promise for the present life and also for the life to come. So, to explain what this is saying here is that Paul is encouraging a young pastor, right? And his main charge to this younger pastor is train yourself for godliness, right? Now, what he also says in there is he affirms bodily training as being of some value. That's the term he uses. He says it's worth some value, all right? But the main point is it's not ultimate. There's something better to train for, which is godliness. All right. And the reason why he says that is because godliness holds promise for this life and the life to come, whereas physical training only holds promise for this life. Okay. So basically what he's saying is keep your priorities straight. And remember, there's a lot more coming after this. So train for both, but always keep in mind that godliness has more value than physical training. Okay. So that plays big into how I view this. And the last one is 1 Corinthians 6, 19 through 20, where it says, or do you not know that your body is a temple of the Holy Spirit within you, whom you have from God? You are not your own, for you are bought with a price. So glorify God in your body. Okay? The only reason I bring that up is because my worldview, what I believe, affirms the inherent goodness of a physical body. So in other words, we are not these animalistic people who inhabit a body and there's a spiritual side and we need to neglect the physical side and feed the spiritual side, right? Like you hear people talk about that sometimes. They talk about like, which wolf are you feeding and all that kind of crap, all right? I don't believe in any of that. I believe that the body is very good and that God created it good, and he created us to actually inhabit physical bodies which are connected inextricably from who we are, okay? There's a reason why we'll have a glorified one. So, all right, I'm only getting into that just so that you guys can understand. My premise is that we're created as physical beings who inhabit a body. We have appetites, we have needs, we need rest, etc. We're spiritual beings who have souls, we have affections, we have emotions, we have fears, we have dreams, and then we're rational beings, right? Who can do critical thinking. We can understand things, we can make connections, all those kind of things. So, why does any of this matter for a health challenge? All right? When we talk about true health consists of a healthy mind, healthy body, and a healthy spirit. And what we're going to do is we're going to break down each one of these, and I'm going to walk you guys through how we look at them, how we can prioritize each of them, and the interplay that they have between one another. So here is kind of how I like to think about this. And I was doing it yesterday, all right? And I was thinking about how to draw this up, okay? And a couple options that came to mind was like, okay, what if we had, a Venn diagram where like in the center is kind of like where everything intersects, and then we have all these others. So if this were health, if this were mind, this were body, this were spirit, right? You've got that center where when they're all working together cohesively, they come together and meet at that point, all right? I didn't like that one. I can't even really tell you why. I just didn't, all right? So, but I do like this one, okay? And I like this because if we have these three sides of this pyramid, okay, and this is who you are as a person, right? At the bottom, okay, is what I'm going to put as spirit, all right? And then these other two sides of the triangle, what I'm going to put as mind, and then over here we have body, okay? I do spirit at the bottom. Does anyone know why? Probably figured out. Foundation, right? The area underneath the pyramid is directly correlated to the length of the foundation, right? So that's why we talk about strength conditioning, we talk about, hey, you need to build up your base, right? And we would say like, this were your aerobic base for your ability to have aerobic capacity, right? We would say you need to build that base up so much so that then you can handle so much more training volume on top of it. Because if we're trying to build on top of a really, really shallow base, then the amount that we can come up and build from there is really diminished. Okay, same thing here, all right? And so I put that one first, and then mind and body kind of build on top of that and come together at that point, okay? All right, so when we talk about, like, when I say something like, let's call it, you can call it soul care, you can call it spiritual health, right? Any of that kind of stuff, okay? What comes to mind in y'all's minds when you hear that terminology? When you hear that terminology? Spiritual health, soul care, all that kind of stuff. Like, what does it mean for someone to have a healthy soul, a healthy spirit? And do not get too philosophical on this, all right? That's not what I'm looking for, right? Just when you think of people in your life that you're like, you know what? Something about that, they have a healthy, there's something there.
They have that intimate relationship with, the Lord, but then if they aren't Christian, whoever their God.
Mm-hmm. Right? Yeah.
I think they also have community. So they have healthy relationships with family or friends.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. What else?
I just think like someone being in right standing with God and revering Him in everything they do.
Mm-hmm.
Or, owning desiring his ways and then renewing the mind that transforms the soul, emotions, heart.
Yep. What else? Because there are plenty of people, and this can be really controversial, plenty of people in my mind that physically have a healthy soul who have no idea who Jesus is, okay? Just going to throw that out there, all right? Now, we can define what health means and all that kind of stuff. But there's something else there. What do you guys think would be, like, how would we start in getting to the bottom of what someone's spiritual, not their state, but their spiritual health is, right? And here's what I'm getting at. I hear this, like, a lot of people would reject this kind of tripartite division of the human being here, all right? But in the fitness industry, you hear this idea of, like, spiritual health. You hear it all the time, but it's always worded very differently than the way I'm wording it, all right? The way it's worded with them is normally you need to find your why. You need to find your why, right? You hear that all the time with coaching organizations and all this kind of stuff, as they say, hey, if you're going to do something, you need to figure out why it is that you want to do it, okay? And if you will just take that one question, that why, okay? So if we're talking about for health, for nutrition, for fitness, whatever it is, let's say, okay, I want to lose 20 pounds. Why? I want to look better naked. Why? So that my spouse will love me more. Why? Right? And if you keep following that train of thought, that why, further and further and further down, you will eventually get to sort of this bedrock foundation of why it is that you do what you do. Okay? Right? All right. So, and I think that will tell you deeply something about who you are and about why you live the way that you live. Because so many times you're going to be doing that just second nature, right? Making decisions, you're not going to have time to sit there and write out a dissertation about why you're doing something. But you still need to do that every once in a while. And so the way that I define or get someone to get to the bottom of this spirit foundation, okay, is I use two words, all right? Now these are, let me not get too far, all right? But hang on. So we have two words, all right? Identity, okay, and calling, all right? Now, obviously, those are jam-packed with theological ramifications. Like, those are, the way that I'm using them has specific meanings. And here's what I want to talk about when I get there. So, identity, okay? How someone identifies themselves, I would regard as whatever it is in their life that their value is wrapped up in, okay? So, in other words, for a lot of people, like, that could be your family. That could be money. That could be your job, right? That could be fitness. It could be your appearance. It could be any of those things. Like there's no end to how many things you can put under what I would say someone's identity is, okay? But what it is something that without that, they would not know who they are, right? If you took that away from them, they would be lost. And that's a reason why you see so many people in sports specifically. What happens like when you have someone who's a really high level competitor and then they get hurt or they get old and they can't do it anymore and they've been doing it their entire life and they're no longer able to, what happens to it? Like a lot of times, more than not, they don't know where to go. Like they don't know what to do because their entire life has been revolved around this one thing, okay? That's the same for families, okay? That's the same for your job. That's the same for your career, whatever it is, all right? So we have identity, and then we have calling. And what I mean by calling is the way in which your life is structured together to live out that identity. Okay? So in other words, if my identity is in my job, right, then in my opinion, okay, for someone to have a truly healthy spiritual identity, their life needs to revolve around their job. Because that's what's going to make them the happiest. It is. That's what's going to bring them the most joy. Now, I'm not saying that can't be taken away like that. It can. That's the point. All right. But that's how they need to order their life. And when I have athletes who come to me who don't have the same beliefs as me, and they're Molly, and their identity is wrapped up in something like sports, I'm reorganizing their life around that. Because guess what? When it is, they're really happy, and they do really well. Okay. Now, when that gets taken away, we have problems. All right. But that's how I see identity and calling in terms of spiritual health, right? If someone wants to have spiritual health, okay, they need to know what their identity is, and they need to know their calling or how their identity is to be lived out in their life, right? Okay, so that's the foundation, and that's obvious. That's usually the hardest part for most people to understand. And now we move on, and we have mind, and we have body. So when you guys think about mental health, what do you think? Like this one's a lot easier to think about. When you think about mental health, the way it's used in society, all that kind of stuff, what comes to mind? Stability. Good.
Stress.
Managing stress. It's good. Balance. That's good. We throw that word around a lot, don't we? Balance. We do, and I like it, but what?
Mental health, like being comfortable in the places that you should be comfortable with in yourself, with the places, like being able to tell yourself, okay, I'm not right here, so I'm going to try to work on this, as opposed to just going too much in one direction.
Yeah, so awareness, right?
Awareness,
Yeah.
Proportional responses.
Yes.
Good.
Or allowance for accountability in things.
Yeah. Yeah, good. Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting to me because they do the same thing when we get to what body. I won't talk about that yet. But normally when you hear people talk about mental health, you actually recognize that a lot of times people are really just talking about the absence of disease and not the presence of actual mental health. Does that make sense, right? Like when people talk about mental health, they usually are referring to like someone deals really well with anxiety, right? Or someone doesn't have anxiety, they don't have fear, you know, they are comfortable in their own skin, right? And when in reality, all that is really just the absence of all of those things that kind of deteriorate mental health, okay? When I think of mental health, I want to think about thriving, right? I want to think about mental clarity. Oh, yes, thriving. I want to think about mental clarity, okay? I want to think about sharpness of mind, okay? I want to think about just having the ability to not be hampered by my brain, right? Like, and by what I can focus on and what I can't focus on. I want to be able to control my emotions in a way that is going to funnel my actions into something that I want them to be, right? Like, and that to me is what we talk about really with mental health, okay? Now, the way to get into this holistic health experience, right? Remember that all we're getting at here is we're getting at you need to take care of your spiritual health, you need to place a priority on your mental health and on your physical health, right? Like that's my point, okay? Go get it, sorry. I didn't realize that, I didn't know that's what that was. So mental health, spiritual health, and physical health. How would you tell someone, or how would you tell yourself to start, like what would be some things that you think you could incorporate like today, right? That would give you better mental health or better mental thriving, right? What would that look like?
Meditation.
Meditation, okay.
Breathing exercises.
Breathing exercises, yep. What else?
Just sitting, turning everything off and being still. Kind of like similar to meditation.
Yeah.
Turning down the volume and static.
So pushing out distractions, right?
Making things more concise. We got a lot going on.
Mm-hmm.
Focus on the little.
Yeah, mm-hmm.
It's good.
Yeah.
Gratitude.
That's very good. That's a good one. I didn't think about that one. That's good. That's good. Yeah, for me, I guess, and all of those things are valid. Okay, just remember that spiritual health right is going to determine how you view mental health. When I think of mental health, for me, the things that I can be doing immediately, starting today, okay, would be taking a good stock of what I would call your mental nutrition, okay, your mental diet, all right? What that means is you need to view it the same way you would your physical appetite, right? Like, what are you taking in mentally each and every day, okay? If you're taking in 2 hours of Instagram every day, okay, I just think that's kind of like akin to eating processed Twinkies, okay, for like your mind. That's what it's doing, okay? I don't think we need to view it any differently than that, right? Because it's influencing us, it's affecting us. I don't have to go through, if I had more time and had it prepared better, I'd give you some great statistics, all right? But I didn't. But yeah, talk about your mental nutrition, okay? What are you reading? Who are you talking to, right? The people that you have in your life, what kind of information are they feeding back to you, okay? All of those things come together, and that when we have better mental health, I think we also have better spiritual health. And when we have better spiritual health, we also have better mental health, right? It's not a one-way track here, okay? All of them come together to influence who we are and our holistic health, okay? Any thoughts on that, the mental health, before we move on? Last one. All right. What'd you say?
You're telling me to drop out of school. That's all I heard.
I didn't say that, so please.
Let me vouch, Laura thinks many things of the things you say sometimes.
All right. Bad dog. Bad dog. Okay? All right. So then, let's talk about physical health. Okay? And this is the one, obviously, probably that, aside from spiritual health, this is the one that I'm most passionate about and that I've seen personally in my own life, how it interacts with the other areas. So, we talk about physical health, right? Obviously, you guys should be pros and experts at this. What comes to your mind when you talk about physical health? Strong? Good, yeah, that's it. I like that.
Nutrition.
Mm-hmm, yep. Healthy diet, right? Yep.
The ability to do the things that you want to do.
Yes, good, very good. Yep, good. Okay, all those things are good, right? And I'm just going to reiterate the point because you guys, we didn't, in physical health when we were talking about this time, it didn't happen. Mental health, it did just a little bit when we were talking about it. But remember, don't think of physical health just as the absence of disease, right? Physical health is thriving, right? It's not just not having diabetes. It's not just not having high blood pressure. It's not just being overweight, okay? It is a actual thriving of your physical health and your physical body the way it was meant to be, okay? So when I think of physical health, obviously, I really think that physical health, right? Okay, all right. Physical health would just be determined by, not determined by spiritual health, but it's going to have a really, really big interplay, obviously, within all of that. What you guys could be doing to increase your physical health, you're already doing. You're doing a nutrition challenge. You're in here working out 3 to 5 times a week, right? All that kind of, or maybe more, all that kind of stuff, which is great, okay? How you define, though, physical health and really how you define mental health, though, is going to come back down to this. I'm not trying to sound like a broken record, but I want to make the point that for someone, I'll use Ellie for an example because she's at a competition right now, okay? Ellie, in my personal opinion, okay, and I've told her this many, many times, has been given a gift to be able to use that gift for certain reasons, okay? And that's what she's doing this weekend, all right? It is perfectly acceptable, and she is going to have, I believe, a good spiritual health, mental health, and physical health for her to be in the gym 2.5 to 3 hours a day working out, okay? For me, that is not the case, okay? It's not, all right? Because if I'm in here 2.5 to 3 hours a day, guess what's happening? My mental health is suffering, my spiritual health is suffering because that's not my identity, it's not my calling, okay? And that's not her identity either, but I'm just saying the way in which she's playing out her calling is in line with her identity. Does that make sense, right? You guys understand where that, okay. All right, so now let's talk about how, like, what are some connections that you guys can draw from mind, right, spirit, mind to body, body to mind, right, and any other more triangles you want to draw. Okay. What are some connections you guys can draw? What I mean by connections is how can you see your physical health impacting your spiritual health, impacting your mental health, and then back and forth, and so on and so forth.
If I eat like crap, I don't want to work out. And when I don't want to work out, I literally just want to do nothing.
Yeah.
I want to take care of anything.
Yeah.
When one of them goes, all of them go for me.
Yeah. So that's you saying that like when I don't take care of my physical health, typically in terms of nutrition, where I eat like crap, it affects my mental health and my spiritual health. That's a really powerful statement. When you think about it, that is a really, really powerful statement. Okay. What else before I talk?
If your body is strong, it also creates a strong spirit. And mind.
Yes. Right. Without it, I would wholeheartedly agree.
Like, if, I don't know, if like you're healthy, then now you have no limitations for like distractions to have the ability to fulfill your identity, calling, purpose. But if I do and I can't sleep, I have bad mental clarity, I have bad energy, I have this disease, I'm
Yeah.
in the hospital, I'm overweight, and my ability to then do my actual purpose and my spiritual calling and my identity wrapped up in that diminishes, then that sucks. And you can't enjoy then the world
Yeah.
in which God's created for us to enjoy. If I can't squat, and I can't go ski, that sucks.
Right. That does suck. Yeah. No doubt. What did you say? Sleep?
Well, yeah, I was gonna say, I've heard pastors say that like sometimes the best thing you can do for your spiritual health is to get a good night's sleep and have a good meal.
Yep.
Because like when you don't have those things, you're more prone to fall into temptation, to be irritable with people that you love, all of those things.
Yeah. Without a doubt. Yeah.
Quote that I love also that says like the heart can't love what the mind doesn't know.
Good.
And so like within mental and spiritual and then how you live that out in your body, like that idea of engaging your mind around things and pursuing those things so that you thrive in those other areas.
Yeah.
It fills you up in a way, but they're all connected. You can't deprive one and
Yeah.
to be fulfilled in another.
That's good. That's good. So I would say the biggest area in which I see this, and I'm just going to rant for just a second. Y'all just hold on, okay? The biggest area in which I see this is I'm going to pick on my own group right now, is like in seminary right now, I have professors that do not take care of their body at all. And it kills me. You want to know why it kills me? Because I'm like, you are so smart and you just understand who you are, what you're called to do, all that kind of stuff. If you would just give me like half an hour of your day, like just to do some squats and just to do some push-ups and stuff like that, it would help you out so much. It would make you such a more productive person in what you're called to do, okay? Same thing with like nutrition, all that kind of stuff. It just blows my mind, all right? And that is why it's something that I'm really passionate about trying to blend and bring people to the understanding of. With that being said, I was going to say something about mental health too, but I can't remember now. But anyways, what I want you to take away from all this that I've said just today is I want you to understand that what you're doing in here with your nutrition and with your physical health, okay, is part of a much, much bigger picture, right? And in your entire life, right? What I'm telling you to do is I'm telling you to take this physical aspect, I'm telling you to integrate it with your mental health and your spiritual health. And I really think that I know from doing that, okay, it's going to reorient you into how much importance this has and how much importance maybe it doesn't have, okay, and in how it helps your holistic health as a being. Okay, that's really the only point that I want to get at, is that you're not just, it's not just the hour 5 days a week that you're in here that is really contributing to your health. It's everything else that you're doing outside of it. Okay, and we talk about that with nutrition a lot. You know, we used to tell people you have an hour a day in here to do something really good for your body, and you have 23 hours out of the day to go and screw it up. All right, and it doesn't take 23 hours. All right, it takes sitting down and having one pizza. Okay. That's what I was going to say about mental health. Have you guys ever noticed that when you get really mentally tired, you start craving really, really bad food? Have you ever noticed that? That's another way in which this, like, just this little triangle, right? And understanding that and recognizing that and being like, okay, I need to take a 10-minute break every 2 hours so that I don't just get so mentally fatigued and drained that I forget to eat, or that I then want to start craving really bad, crappy food, okay? Because I tell myself I've earned it, right? It's like I've sat at a computer for 6 hours. I've earned that bad meal, okay? No, because then all that's going to do is going to make me want to sleep later in the morning. I'm going to feel tired when I get up. I'm just going to affect how all this stuff is working together, okay? Any questions? Any thoughts? Got you guys out of here in 35 minutes.
That was great.
That was
Yeah.
awesome.
All right, I think, yeah, y'all cheer on Ellie and Aston and Steph and Jimbo today because they're at the fittest. So I think Aston already PR'd a snatch. So yeah, go ahead. Do you have a question? Is there a book?
Like, Everybody Matters.
Yeah, that is, people have told me that. I haven't read it though. So if anything out of that, I didn't plagiarize, I promise, okay? All right, so I haven't read it. But I have heard that book, and Ellie and Jed have both said they're very good. Yeah, I should.